the moderator of Guess Who's Coming to Kansas City. And today we're going to talk about law enforcement of organized activities of people who've been elected or whatever. They enforce the law. And we're very blessed to have some talented people on there. But before we get started, and we'll allow them to introduce themselves, I wonder why we were overlooked when the president had all the chiefs of police and law enforcement people, and they did not do that for the people in Kansas City or St. Louis. But we are always out front. Missouri is a show me state. So with that in mind, let's start with, who should we start with, Mr. Folks?
Well, you got the major here, and you got Daryl, the sheriff, and you got the police chief, but you don't have them run.
Okay, well let's go. Maybe we'll get him. Okay, we're gonna say be a little different, or they wanted to let them be first, and we'll start out with the major so she can tell the people who she is, and she is part of Guess Who's Coming to Kansas City, and she is from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and read our listening audience what that is and how long you've been doing that.
Yes, prior to my most recent promotion, I was a captain for the Homeland Security Division of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. Most recently, I was promoted to major, and I am now the division commander for the East Patrol Division, the lovely East Patrol Division of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. I've been doing this position now for about 2 months, and we've hit the ground running, and I'm very excited for this opportunity.
Okay, the young man, the Jackson County sheriff, at one time he was the Kansas City, Missouri Police Chief. So let's welcome Sheriff Forte.
Thank you, sir, and hello to everyone. I appreciate the opportunity once again, and I just want to praise God and thank God for giving me this opportunity to serve our community, or continue to serve our community. I've been sheriff for 3.5 years. I retired from KCPD after 31.5 years, as in the last 5.5 as chief of police. So thank you for having me on your show once again, and I look forward to talking with my esteemed friends.
Okay, that other person who we often say cross the pond. That's Missouri when you go from KCMO to KCK. But we have the newest appointed chief, Mr. Oakman. Introduce yourself and welcome to the show, sir.
Oh, good evening to all, and it's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with prior friends in law enforcement as well as the community. I'm the current chief of the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. I spent 29 years as a deputy chief and member of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. I retired on June 12th and started KCK June 14th, so didn't have much time in between that. But I'm excited and look forward to the discussion, and just want to welcome everyone to the show, and thank you.
Thank you very much. One of the things when I had spoken to you, I got met with, before he came on the show, that's the Kansas City Police Chief Daryl Forte. He called me down to his office. We met in his office to kind of go over the particulars. And I had told him that his stepfather is my classmate, Mr. Donnie Davis. One of the areas, all you, and we need to get ourselves, it seems to be a difficult time when we're trying to recruit people of color or minorities. I don't know how, is that still the situation nowadays?
Well, I'll answer that for the sheriff's office. It's always been difficult because everybody knows on this show and everybody listening that it's always been some conflict or tension between the minority community and law enforcement. And since I've been at the sheriff's office, there's been 11 black males hired in the last, I guess in the last 8 years. 11 black males hired, and I hired 10 of the 11. So that's part of the reason I'm not real popular at the sheriff's office. And and I shouldn't have to qualify with this, but they're more than qualified. And anybody that I hire, I don't care what race or gender, I'm not hiring mediocre people. Well, there's people out there, but I think we just have to go out there and touch them. And I don't think the problem's been bringing people in, at least from what I've seen. It's retention. Sometimes we're treated differently, and that's just the real fact about most areas in life, whether it be housing, banking, politics, education, sports. Oftentimes we're treated differently, and not to make excuses for anyone, because many of us have prevailed, but we owe it to others to help them prevail too. So when people join, I think it's incumbent upon us, and I know both the major and the chief on here now, they've reached out and they help everyone. Again, it's not just a race issue, but we need people in positions that are willing to help people, to succeed even when they come on. They take pictures when we first come, and then 3 years later, probably half the minorities in the pictures are gone. So there's a problem in retention.
Well, let me ask each and every one of you the boundary. We'll start with the Jackson County Sheriff boundary. What are the boundaries that you look at people to recruit?
They can go on the website, www.jacksongov.org, but it's basically, you have to graduate from academy, a certified academy, be 21 years of age, be of good moral character, meaning not a lot of arrests, or no felonies at all, but not a lot of misdemeanor arrests, and weight in proportion, and that's basically it. But they can get on there and they can look at it, www.jacksongov.org, and it's not an educational requirement other than high school or GED.
Okay, the newly appointed KCK Chief, Mr. Carl Oatman, what about the boundary where we say cross the pond? A lot of people who've been around as long as I've been around know we're talking about going across the viaduct of the Missouri River.
Yeah, similar to what the sheriff said, all of our requirements are at KCKPD, www.kckpd.org, to get those requirements. It's similar to what the sheriff said. And oftentimes, I think one of the major things that we run into is that oftentimes people don't apply because they think because they've had a few nicks in their character over the years that they would not qualify to be a police officer. Yeah, we have a long list of disqualifications, but one of the main ones is the one that we definitely cannot work with is if you have a felony conviction. And that's because most of the state governing agencies will not allow anyone with a felony conviction to be a police officer. And to another point, I think as
MC, we now have Mr. President Enrod.
Okay, we'll get with him in a second. Go ahead, Chief Oakman.
Yeah. But as the sheriff was talking about earlier on the recruiting part, it's a four-step process that police departments really have to be intentional about. 1 is recruiting, 2 is hiring, 3 is training, and 4 is retaining. And I think the number one quality that you have to look for, first of all, is that they're good people and they're willing to serve their community. And we know that there's been challenges throughout my career, and I've been in law enforcement almost 30 years with recruiting, training, hiring, and retaining minorities. But I think one thing that I do want to say to those who are listening, please stop discouraging your loved ones, your friends, your relatives from becoming police officers. That is our biggest hurdle, is family members, friends discouraging otherwise quality candidates and people who would make good police officers serving their communities.
Okay, before we get to the lady of the hour, when I used to go to Washington, D.C., and Howard was up there in those cases, I was at an event. They had all these top celebrity black. But Eartha Kitt, it was supposed to start at 3 o'clock. She waited till 3:30 to make her appearance, so everybody ran to Eartha Kitt. So I'm guessing we said that if we talk to the major of our host today, I guess he would make sure everybody gonna be on the show, and then he'll make his appearance. So first, Major, we'll talk to you, and then we'll go to our guest host for today.
Well, I am definitely no Eartha Kitt, but I do absolutely fit into two minority groups. I not only am I African American, but I'm also female. And so we are finding roadblocks and difficulties in hiring both groups, women and African Americans. As Chief Oakman stated, we run up against the family, discouraging individuals, friends, loved ones, and discouraging quality people to come and apply. If you simply go to www.kcpd.org, you can find qualifications which mirror those of Sheriff Daryl Forte as well as Chief Oakman's qualifications for their agencies. They are the same for KCPD. We encourage you, if you have a heart for this community, if you want to serve and make a difference, please apply.
Now, what is your district? What are the boundaries?
I am Beach Patrol, and I like to say that I'm the whole city, but our main thoroughfares are going to be Independence Avenue, St. John. We do 9th Street, 12th Street, all over. It's pretty much the east side of Kansas City. So if you live in those boundaries, I encourage you to come stop by our station, 2640 Prospect, Kansas City, Missouri. Come on and see us.
Okay, now we're going to bring in also, we need to help our brothers in the second largest city, St. Louis. So first, guest host, it's your time.
Well, sure. Thank you, MC. Happy to be with you. Thank you. I have to tell you, I've been looking forward to this program for a while. As you know, working with the NAACP, we've got lots of civil rights concerns, lots of those styled issues. There's some legislation that was recently passed, and so want to talk a little bit about that. But let's start with some good news. You may have heard about Gary Hill, Chief Gary Hill with Lincoln University, in his effort to have an academy there at the university. Do you think that will help recruit, attract, and retain minority candidates?
Is that a question or something you're just telling us?
No, that's a question. That's a real question. That's a real question for anybody who's here there.
Okay.
I'm wondering if it will.
Well, I'll go ahead.
Go ahead, Chief.
No, I was just going to say, I think any way to expose the careers of law enforcement will help. I think the key is that recruiting piece, and you have to make sure it doesn't matter what type of facilities you have to make sure you have the right people that's able to reach out to people and have the historical discussion about policing and be able to sell the profession and give them the opportunity that they will have the opportunity to make a difference in their community. But I think it starts with the right people out actually contacting and having conversations with the people they're trying to recruit.
Okay.
I know, if I may, this is Major Thompson. One thing that reminds each and every one of us is that we're all recruiters. Each and every member of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department is a recruiter. He encourages us to go back to our colleges and or universities that we've attended, our high schools, our churches, and recruit. So it takes each of us to be that positive example for those potential candidates for our police department.
Okay. I understand. I know that it's received nationwide praise, and so I'm hoping that it'll have a beneficial impact in terms of law enforcement, what we see. One of the problems that the NAACP has complained about for a long time, at least a couple of decades, has been the vehicle stops report and how, when we look at that data, it shows that, African Americans are plainly being pulled over more percentage-wise than other folks, and depending on what jurisdiction, it can be nearly double. What's the solution for that?
Okay, we're not making a citizen arrest, but we want a citizen report from the people from that second largest city in Missouri, St. Louis, Mr. R. Folks.
Well, right now I'm with Mr. President with Nimrod there. We have a black police chief here. Have had one in the second one, I think, no, third one. And we have similar problems like they have there in recruiting. We had a new mayor came in, and so we have some vacancies that she just left open. But we are trying to recruit. Me personally, from the Black Human Comedy perspective, very excited about the academy being put in Springfield. I mean in Lincoln at the Black University. That should have some police officers come out, who have come out went to school. We are police officers, and that should encourage more officers to go to college, and also more students to become police officers.
Okay, Jackson County Sheriff Forte.
Yes, they basically said what I'd like to say. When I first heard about the academy being there, I thought that was a great idea, and again, it's both everyone expressed already. It's more than just getting them to the academy, and I think another significant piece is making sure they're exposed to the right academy instructors, because that shapes them throughout their career. So I think that's a huge piece, making sure that they have the right instructors with the right mindset, and not just basic criteria about policies and procedures, but about the history of law enforcement in the minority community. So again, I echo the same thing everyone else said. I think it's an excellent idea, and I hope more institutions copy that.
Speaking of the community, we seem to have black-on-black crime, murders, drive-by, neighborhood, and what do you think we need to get the right solution? So what are you guys suggesting? And also, Mr. Rod Chappell, what will the NAACP do to help people work together, especially because a lot of times when we have a shooting or we have different things, our people don't want to get involved, so they don't talk.
Yeah, I would like to tackle this one. I think we have to continue to make the community, and the community as well as the police department, continue to stress that we do not support this. We should not be tolerating it. There was a weekend when I was the deputy chief in Kansas City, Missouri, and I had 5 homicides in one weekend, and I went out to each one. And what really concerns me is that we have a lot of different agencies in the community talking about violence, but when I was out there, at each homicide, I saw 2 groups of people, the police and the family of the loved one, and no one else. And that's the problem. No one wants to get involved from the community as well as different agencies that are here to help give resources to address violence. We do that Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. As you know, most homicides are not occurring during banking hours. So we need the community, we need the agencies to really be involved and make reducing violent crime a priority.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, I'll just add, this is Daryl, I'll just add that we need to build relationships before we want some things from the community. What happens, and I've watched this, I've been over 800 homicide scenes, and I counted them up in 2016 was when I counted them, and I've been to a lot of them since then, even as sheriff. But I think what we need to do in law enforcement is build those relationships before we want something. You can't just go in a neighborhood and some people racially profiled, and I don't think most police officers do it. I think most police officers are upstanding citizens, they care and they're here for the right reasons, but most is not good enough. Kind of like if you were flying on a airline and they were bragging about, most of our pilots can fly. 80% of our pilots are good. 80% or 90% or 95% is not good enough in law enforcement. So I think we have to build relationships beforehand. And also, I want to throw out there, and I try to do this every time I get the mic, we do have people that cooperate with the police, and if you look at it, and this is factual, if you look at the tip hotline, they pay out hundreds of thousands of dollars every year. So we don't have enough people. We have a lot of caring people in Kansas City, and as my peers know here, the major and the chief, a lot of people will tell us information without trying to get an award or reward. So we have a lot of good people here, but we don't have enough people willing to stand up, and we can't do it ourselves in law enforcement. But again, as I have the mic, I want to compliment those in law enforcement that work tirelessly to protect our community and come to work. They care every day, and I want everyone to know too, it's just a small minority that are running rogue out there in the community, and report the ones that are not doing what they're supposed to do. And of course, we'll investigate. But I just want to say to my brothers and sisters out there, they're doing a great job, and they care. We're in the caring profession, and if we didn't care, most of us would have left a long time ago. So I don't want people to think all law enforcement negative about all law enforcement, because we're a caring group of people, and we'll continue to serve. And all these things that happened in the last 5-10 years, most of us are coming to work every day and still giving it our all.
Since they have reduced, we'll say like anyone can get a gun, don't have to a permit. In most cases on the black community or in the people of color, seems like crime go up, and a lot of domestic violence too. What is you guys and lady, what do you have to say on this subject?
With domestic violence, this is Kari Thompson. With domestic violence, it's a cycle. A lot of children grow up in homes where they see their parents, their mother, their father involved in violent interactions with a they therefore grow up and sometimes are not able to shirk that, and those types of behaviors present themselves in their own relationships. We have counselors, we have mentors, we have social workers with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department in each of our 6 division stations here ready to help. But a lot of times we find that people do not want to take the help. So I encourage you, if you are listening, if you have found yourself to be in a violent relationship, to please reach out and ask for help. You can give us a call. You can call our domestic violence section at 816-234-5235. You can reach out to me at Youth Patrol at 816-234-5530, and we can help you to change your life. It just starts with a phone call.
And this is Daryl once again, and that's a real touchy subject, especially with victims. Oftentimes they're victimized and they're so afraid, and they've been through the system before. And of course we know there's often many domestic violence related incidents and even homicides. So, and I throw this out there, this is my personal number. If you know me or you trust me, call me. Not when it's happening, of course, call 911, but call me at 816-492-1076. That's my personal cell number, and I can guide you to the resources, because I know, a lot of people are not trusting in law enforcement, and many don't trust me because I'm in law enforcement. But call me, 816-492-1076. Don't call me when you get stopped by the police and you want to get out a ticket or anything. But if you have an issue and you don't feel safe, and I will guide you in the right direction.
I'm not going to say this. I remember when I did my first second radio show back in 1976. I had a police officer, a sergeant on, and I asked him a question. I said, why is it always people, when they get together, there's always problems, and somebody shoots somebody's going to fight somebody. And he said, most times that we have problems is among people who are friends and family members who all of a sudden can't get along, and the police department is the last one they invite you to the party. It seems like that's the truth. So that's for everybody.
Chief Oakman, cross the pond, and we say your reply to what the question that was asked.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to look at is start addressing our young people. And in Missouri, I was fighting to get mandatory conflict resolution, which it always ran into an issue because there was always, hey, what's the funding? And so what I'm trying to do in Kansas City, Kansas, is work with the school district there to make it mandatory, where children would have conflict resolution in elementary, then they would have another section in middle school, and then finish it up with a session in high school. Because what I've seen in my 30 years is that there is an issue with managing your anger and making better decisions when you're upset. And I think that we all could benefit from that. And the problem now is conflict resolution is required if you're a student and you got in trouble. I think it should be used more as a preventive measure for all young people. And we have to start someplace. We can't keep saying that we'll get to that point. I think it's time where we have to definitely start. And I wanted to hit on
Mr. MC. This is Scott Owen. I'm monitoring the Facebook page, and we have Miss Felicia Mitchell-Hampton, who would like to make a couple comments. First of all, she said, great conversation, Ira, and she wanted to make sure that 816-492-1092 is a correct number. She also mentions that this is... Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's 816-492-1076.
76. Okay, thank you. And she mentions the system does not have the resources to protect, and also says we have to address the violent crime and the domestic violence. Great question. It's a cycle. And that was her feedback on the show so far.
Okay. We need more participation from our people in both cities, or three cities, Ferguson, Kansas City, Missouri, and St. Louis, because we all need to work together. And a lot of things we have found that maybe things might not work in this city, but it might work in this other city. So we can group together all the necessary things to put a stop it, hopefully to deter any violence or any crime that occur within our communities.
And I think that's a good point. This is Nimrod Chapel. In terms of, seeking to reduce the violence and that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of times, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, we got some of the top brass from some of the best law enforcement agencies in the state. But, I don't think that we're really saying that it's the responsibility of the police department to deter violence, are we? As I understand it, law enforcement comes after some bad thing has happened, and they try to make things better. Maybe there's an opportunity that, during a demonstration or something where a police presence might reduce the likelihood of someone acting inappropriately. That's a legitimate conversation. But y'all just straighten me out. Is it law enforcement's job to eliminate or prevent crime, or do y'all come after the fact?
I think so. I think we can prevent crime by building relationships. And I can tell you probably 10 people throughout my career that had connections in the community, even when it started with pagers years ago, where they could be off duty and somebody would call them and say, hey, I got a problem, or my friend or brother or some other family member is having a problem with somebody, and I think there's something here to go down. So I think when we have the right relationships, again, like I said, pre-incident, and be available for people. I've been giving out my number, telephone number, and pager number since I had pagers 2 years ago. Because people will call you and say, I have a problem, or so-and-so has a problem, and if somebody doesn't intervene, somebody's going to get hurt, and that's where we can intervene. So, again, personal relationships matters, and when it comes to law enforcement, that's a huge piece. That's a huge piece. So we can prevent some crimes.
Okay. All right.
Communication, in my opinion, is key. It's key to all of this. Communication from our community, communication from police. As Sheriff Forte stated, having those relationships, building those relationships, being approachable. You know, one thing that we talk about a lot in youth patrol is that the officers are approachable. You know, you're able to speak to those in the community. You're able to have a normal conversation, and that they feel that they can come and interact with you. So absolutely, communication is key. It is the foundational principle, the first foundational principle, in my opinion, to preventing violence.
Yeah, and I agree with both. We definitely can work to prevent violence, and even Sheriff Forte, when he was the chief in Kansas City, Missouri, he did some hotspot patrolling, and what it wasn't just necessarily the police out doing enforcement, but it was saturating the neighborhoods with the police in a positive community engagement approach. And that's something that I think, and this is something that I'm looking at implementing in KCK, because last year in Kansas City, Missouri, 70% of our homicides occurred outside. So that tells me one thing, that positive police visibility could have possibly reduced the number of those homicides. And you have to build those relationships. So it's all about relationship building and letting the community see that the police is here to serve the community, not to police the community. And so, yeah. But we're also, the police is also a partner with the other community sectors to help reduce crime and prevent it. But definitely, we do have a stake in reducing crime.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, what are some of the impediments to building the relationships for, reduction of crime, or having positive relationships with people in the community, or just communications with people in the community? What are some of those that you don't see?
I think peer pressure, like she said earlier about, and the major said about, peer pressure and the family pressure, saying you don't want to be a police officer, you don't want to communicate with the police. So that's a huge piece there too. And I think part of it rests with the police also. We have to understand the importance of the communication, like the major said. If we don't have the communication piece, we're not going to get anything. We're in the communications business. So that's a huge piece. And if we don't understand as leaders in law enforcement about the importance of communication pre-incident, we're going to have some problems, because people are not going to listen when they're emotionally upset about some things. That's not when people are going to be rational and reasonable. So we have to get to them beforehand and build that trust level so we can talk to them before they act out.
Let me piggyback off of that. Back some years ago, when I was assistant manager for the Parkview drugstore that was on 3207 Prospect and also on 27th and Benton, we had a pinpoint patrol where the people interacted with the policemen that patrolled those different areas. And also, we had community policing, which has some talk of getting back to that, where the people can react to different people they can see and appreciate every day. Don't everybody talk at once.
Oh no. Yeah, I tell you, and what I think something else that we can help is, and this is from the police standpoint as well as community. There are members of law enforcement that doesn't want to see the community and police working together, and there's members of the community that doesn't want to see the police and the community working together. And we cannot fall for those traps, because when the police and community are working together, your community is just so much better. But there are people in the community on both sides that do not want to see that relationship come together. So I think as leaders in the community and leaders in law enforcement, we need to make sure that we policies and the procedures to ensure that is not allowed to continue.
In case you just tuned in, we got 15 more minutes to go, but this is MC Richardson, your moderator for the assistant, everybody who's on the show. But you can or should tell your friends not just about this show, but we need to get involved. Now, I did ask the question about what I was part of the group that we had pinpoint patrol, and also we had community police. I did not hear a response from any of you pertaining to those two situations.
I want to comment about community policing. When you look around the country and you look at different organizations, most organizations have differing opinions about community policing, different definitions. In Kansas City, we have community interaction officers, and I tried to get rid of those positions. Well, I did at one point, because everyone should be a community interaction officer. It shouldn't be 2 or 3 people, in my opinion. And again, everyone does it differently, and I respect the way they do it. But community policing, to me, is nothing more than problem-solving, partnerships, and holding each other accountable. And the reason I came up with that years ago, because I'm not that bright, it's easy to remember, PPA, problem-solving, partnerships, and accountability. But you look at a lot of definitions throughout the country, they have community policing units, and they have, community policing officers, individual officers like community interaction officers. I think we all should have the mindset that we're all community policing officers. We want to solve problems, we want a partnership, and we want to hold each other accountable. So again, it's different for different agencies, but that's what I always describe to.
In Kansas City, there was recently some state legislation, Senate Bill 53, pushed through by Senator Lukemeyer, that removed the requirement that officers live within the city. How do y'all feel about that?
I was opposed to that. I'm surprised it passed during this climate in the community. That just further shows that some people want to be distant from the people that they serve, and I know there's different reasons people want to reside outside the city, but to me, this is not the time this wasn't the time to do that, because it just further shows that some police officers want to be removed from the community that they serve.
We are all members of the community, and I want to live and work in this community. I'm a stakeholder, I'm a community member, and I'm proud to live in Kansas City and to serve Kansas City.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've lived in Kansas City the entire time I've been a police officer here. I'm originally from Kansas City, Kansas, and that was one of the reasons why I went back to be the police chief, and definitely plan on moving and living there. It's a little more, I think, complicated in Wyandotte County than it is Kansas City, Missouri, because of the large area and the vast places that you can live. It's a little more limited in Wyandotte County, but I'm a firm believer that you should definitely live in the community that you police, as well as when you live in the community, you can hold elected officials accountable for their actions through voting. So I would never want to live somewhere, work somewhere where I didn't have the opportunity to vote, especially when we talk about law enforcement, where there's always critical issues around the vote regarding policing and community engagement.
Another issue that
Go ahead.
Another issue that seems to come up from time to time is, at least, so I spent a lot of time in Jefferson City looking and working with the legislature. They talk a lot about supporting officers and supporting law enforcement, and that's good. But when it comes down to letting the rubber really hit the road in mandating higher pay or increased qualifications or one to get the other, they seem to fall short. How can we as citizens encourage our legislators, whether they're local or at the state level, to treat law enforcement and our public servants better with better pay?
Well, I agree with everything you said. No, but yeah, we talk about pay. I agree with everything you said. Yeah, there's always, there's always that push from people saying they support law enforcement, but like you said, when it comes to actual pay and salary, they usually that support kind of falls short. And on the qualifications, I think each individual department, and I know Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas City, Kansas, the Sheriff's Department, we make sure that the leaders make sure that those qualifications stay high and high standards. I know you had this push when last year they were saying that all officers should go to college and graduate college, and we'll have better officers. Not necessarily. When you look at even Kansas City, Missouri's police academy is about 7 months. Their academy, when you look at Monday through Friday for 7 months, you look at the total hours for a bachelor's degree is about 1,400. A police officer in the Kansas City, Missouri Police Academy goes to class about 1,100 hours through that 7 months. So I think having more money for more training opportunities going forward, I think will help. But definitely, I definitely support anyone that want to increase the salary.
I recall when I was going out to Penn Valley, where they had a lot of policemen, especially KCMO policemen, that went to school or college to learn how to interact with the community people. But another point, I know we haven't touched base on this, but I don't think it's a crime that people who haven't been vaccinated, because we are rated up in the United States, Missouri's always out there. And the other thing, the important deal, I know all you are registered voters, but the importance of the vote, and not only registering, but also get out there and vote. So any comments on that? And we normally get in these subjects when it's about to go off our time is about up, but we would appreciate any comments you have.
I was vaccinated, and what I did and what I continue to do is encourage others to look at the research. Look at the research and then make up their mind, and hopefully reasonable people will understand why it's important to do that. But I tweeted about it the day I was vaccinated, and I just encourage people, do your research. Don't listen to anybody if you don't want to. Do your own research and then come up with your own conclusion. But I think it's important for people to be educated with facts. Don't just Google anybody. But you got different sides talking about different things. But I think it's important, and I think we're headed in the wrong direction once again, because some people fail to get be responsible. Put it like that, for lack of a better term, a lack of responsibility that's impacting a whole lot of other people. But again, I'm not telling you to do it. I'm saying do your research and then do the responsible thing after you do your research from credible sources.
Yeah, I agree.
In my opinion, knowledge is power. As Sheriff Forte said, do your research. Google is your friend. But remember that being vaccinated not only helps yourself, but it helps your fellow man. Our local hospitals here in Kansas City are now seeing an uptick in their patients coming in with COVID. And 99% of these patients coming in are unvaccinated who have contracted COVID-19. So please do your research. I am vaccinated. I encourage you to look into it and think of not only yourself, but your fellow man.
Major Thompson, right across the street from your headquarters, we have the Morning Star Baptist Church where they do vaccinations.
Absolutely. They did over 24,000 vaccines at that location. Not only Morning Star staff, but they had Truman Medical Center was there. And we had a National Guard unit that was there also assisting with the vaccination. So Dr. Miles and his crew did a phenomenal job this year on getting our community vaccinated. So kudos, and my hat goes off to Dr. Miles and his wonderful staff.
Yeah, I agree. It's important. I was vaccinated by January 5th, and you want to make sure that we do our part so we don't go back to where we were last spring and summer, because it seems the same ones who were complaining about that are the same ones not getting vaccinated. So do your part, do your research, and by doing it, you help the whole community, and we won't have to go back to where we were last summer. Because I can tell you, I hate needles, so I did it. Hope I don't have to do it again, but I knew it was my civic duty to do it.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking about law enforcement. So once again, tell our listening audience, and hopefully the listening audience will tell people the importance of the show and how they can reach the individual when it comes to violent crime, or if it comes to some things that happen good. Show our appreciation by telling them they did a good job there. They did a good job over here, and we all should be involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Can I just add something to a lot of folks, I think, get the wrong impression, and it only spurs the divide that is sitting here between community members in the first place, by not being friendly. And so many times, and a couple of times we've got to be pulled over, but nothing's happened, it's been okay. But I'll wave when I see a law enforcement person, right? Mm-hmm. In my community, in my neighborhood, you see the highway patrolman along the way. Just a little friendly way, nothing more. And surprise, and sometimes you get a way back, sometimes you don't. What do y'all think about that?
I think most people respect law enforcement, but the people that I think the majority that respect law enforcement and appreciate what we're doing, they don't get the mic to talk about it. They just going about the everyday lives, paying the bills, raising the families, and contributing to society. Those that sometimes want the 15 minutes of fame that constantly talk negative about law enforcement. But again, I think everybody that I know personally in law enforcement, we would give our lives for anybody out there that we don't know. So again, we have great people in law enforcement, and I think most people, because we have people pay for our meals anonymously, thank us all the time, wave at us, and kids telling us thank you for what you do. So and that's what I want law enforcement to understand too. It's a negative time in the media for law enforcement, but most people love us and respect us and encourage us and appreciate what we're doing for them every day, in and out.
Yeah, I always, I try to tell my officers that just because a community member is critical of our actions doesn't mean they do not support. And we saw a lot of that last year. There were some members that were critical, but they still supported us. And real quick before we go, I just wanted to send a shout out to a program that we're putting in place in KCK that I think is going to benefit the community. Our police athletic league does a phenomenal job, and a program that we're putting in place is a driver's education program where the 2 POW officers will go and become driving instructors. And what they will do is then teach our young people in POW the proper way to operate a motor vehicle, and they'll receive a certificate and get their driver's license. But part of that program is to teach them how to interact if they have an unfortunate situation and get stopped by the police, as well as teaching them how to keep their driver's license valid, their vehicle registered, and proper insurance. Because we do know most incidents occur with the police conducting traffic stops. So I think that we're trying to be proactive in starting with younger people and training them the appropriate way. So hopefully we can get that program out in September, and it's free to any kid that's part of the POW program.
And I want to add too, I know time's short, we've already get out here. Prostate cancer screening, this takes 10 seconds. Anybody 50 plus or have a family history of prostate cancer, please get early screening. I'm a prostate cancer survivor. I went through radiation hormone therapy a little bit over a year ago. So make sure and this is just not for men, but those loved ones that have men in their families or friends. Encourage them to get their yearly screening, contact their doctor, and again, it's just a blood test screening for the most part, and they have another screening that most men probably know about. But don't be afraid of it. Prostate cancer screening, if you're 50 plus, a family history, and it's prevalent in black males. So make sure you go out there and get checked. I went through radiation, hormone therapy, 43 radiation treatments. I'm cancer free. Just had another test yesterday. Got the results early this morning by email. So again, it's nothing to be afraid of. But if you catch it early, like I did, it's curable. So make sure you do that. So you can enjoy a quality life, long quality, excellent life. Thank you.
Now, would you give how you can be reached and a phone number before we go out there, each and every one of you?
Hey, this is Major Thompson. And praise God, Sarah Forte. That is such a great news. That is amazing. That is awesome. You are definitely a touch to that, so that is awesome. Again, I'm Major Thompson, and I just wanted to let everyone know about a quick event that we have coming up on July 30th, 6 to 8 p.m. It's going to be a family fun night. It's a family community commitment program we're having from 6 to 8 at Concourse Park. And Concourse Park is at 200 Benton Boulevard. So we encourage any and everyone, whether you live on the east side of Kansas City or not, to come out and hang out with us. Again, I'm Major Thompson. I can be reached at my cell, which is 816-686-6645.
And I'm Chief Caldman, Kansas City, Kansas Police Department. And I can be reached at 913-573-6010.
This is Daryl once again, 816-492-1076, or DL Forte at jacksongov.org. DL Forte at jacksongov.org.
This is MC Richardson with the United Minority Media Association. We're all recruiting people in the media and other aspects of law, criminal justice, what have you. I can be reached at 816-822-8866. And for Mr. Scott Owen, we will reestablish our website, which will be yuma.website. Now, how can you be reached?
Well, I refer to myself as King Montgomery, but you can also reach me through MC Richardson also.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think this was a great show. What about our guests? What do you think? No comment, huh?
I appreciate the opportunity once again. Thank you.
Yes.
Y'all stay safe.
Yes, thank you once again. Always a pleasure to interact with the community and just members. I enjoyed it. Thank you for having me.
And also, MC, I'm asking to let the guests know that I also show every Saturday from 1 to 3 p.m. And I will be calling them to be a guest on my show also on FergusonUSA.com. Their show can be retrieved by going to our website and going to the podcast library, and it can be retrieved. They want the lunch. I'm sorry. Guess who's coming to dinner in Kansas City?
Okay, and on that note, next week with Mr. Rod Chappell, attorney, we're going to have him. We're going to have Michael Downey with the Lincoln University on next Saturday. So be sure to turn on and tune in. And we thank Ferguson USA HotTalkRadio.com.
Thank you.